Hello, everybody. This is Wildman Z here. I'm going to continue my little library tour for 2022 since it seems to be a popular thing on YouTube. Everybody's doing it, or at least everybody that counts. So, just picking off a random shelf in my attic. I've cleared about a quarter of it off, and I'll show some books. This is Goldish Travel. I read it back when I was a child, maybe 10, 12 years old. I didn't understand any of the social or political aspects of it at the time, so I'm going to actually reread it. I just thought it was a story about visiting little people and big people and horse people and so forth, like a lot of kids do, but it was still a fun introduction to a great book. Here's another book. I have not read all the plays in here. This is the complete works of Aristophanes. Aristophanes wrote comedies. And I'll tell you the truth, unlike Euripides, which I've been reading a lot of for the last about 2 years, I don't get the jokes. I I think that the comedy does not age as well as the drama. I go online to Center for Hellenic Studies, and they do like Zoom plays, or at least partial plays of some of them. I believe they did the Frogs and one or two other ones of Aristophanes, and they explain the jokes, which inherently make it unfunny. But I'm going to keep plugging away. I like to read the classics, and it's a good experience. But the jokes, at least to me, it's Greek to me, and I'm Greek, so it's really confusing. I like this guy here. This is H. Monroe, aka Saki, and he's got a grim face, but he's not a grim guy. He's a really funny guy. He died in World War One. He unfortunately got shot by a sniper. So he wrote in the Victorian and Edwardian era, and a lot of his works deal with breaking the decorum and the proper behavior, the propriety of parties and society at the time, and it's kind of snooty comedy, but I kind of like it. It's sarcastic, and he kind of, if you get a depiction of the time, he really kind of is taking little nabs at the culture. I haven't read all these stories, but I've read about half of them, and they're really fun. And sort of a goofy writer. I have not read this book. I saw this woman on CNN. It's called "Bring the War Home," and it seemed like a relevant current book to get and read. I just got it a couple weeks ago. I'll read it next month or two. Unfortunately, as it says on here, the white power movement and paramilitary America. I'm assuming most of my readers are in the U.S. Viewers? I have like 5 viewers right now. So, in the future, maybe I'll have more viewers. But, we have an unfortunate situation here in the United States, and I couldn't even say it correctly. What happened January 6th is atrocity. And, I want to read a little bit more about the history of this from a woman who's an expert. I heard her speak on CNN. She seemed to really be up on it. And here's another book I just got. I have not read. Really looking forward to it. It's called The Zoologist's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a biologist's perspective or zoologist's perspective on taking all the morphologies of using comparative anatomy to describe the creatures of Earth, symmetry arguments, and so forth. And then, most organisms, at least higher organisms, have bilateral symmetry, and taking that and extrapolating to conditions of different gravity, different compositions of atmospheres, and so forth. I have not read it. Sounds really interesting. I'm always interested in people speculating about alien life. Nothing to do with intelligent aliens, just animals in general and other types of organisms. Here's a book that I know and love quite well. The Count of Monte Cristo by my man Alexandre Dumas. That's him on the cover. Kind of a fresh, cool dude. I love not only his books, but I think he was fantastic. He had a spirit and a sense of adventure, and he overcame adversity in his time. He was a mixed race person, and he just didn't faze him. He kept writing. Was popular. He was well known all across Europe, including in Russia. Count of Monte Cristo sort of epitomizes what he wanted to live up to. A guy who was, he was cast into a prison for some sort of false accusations, and he just strives to get ahead. He gets out, and he strives to get revenge on all these people while living it up. And it's a great story. And he built himself a castle. If you want to read a good autobiography, I recommend it. I don't have a copy, but I read it at the library. It's called The Laughing Negro. It's a story about his personal life and the extravagances he went through, and he's very generous. And he was a gun runner in Italy during a revolution, and he could care less about who was winning. He just wanted to be part of a war, a rebellion. He just wanted to live that life. And so he's a cool guy, and he had a good life, and I admire him. We'll get a little sci-fi here. Blade Runner, which was by Philip K. Dick, of course. The proper name of this is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? This was a recent edition that was on law. I read this when I was a kid. I wanted to read it again after seeing Blade Runner 2049. They changed the name to Blade Runner just to make it correlate with the movie. But this is the good old story. I'm not a big Philip K. Dick fan. Honestly, I like the movies better than his writing. There's something about his writing. It's kind of snarky, kind of like too cool for school type of thing. And I don't know. It's just something about him kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. I'll read his stuff. I've read Man in High Castle. I read that and several other books. But there's just something about him. I vastly prefer the writing of like Frank Herbert to Philip K. Dick. Here's a cool book for you math nerds out there, Gödel's Proof. This is not a textbook. I'll consider this a popular book. I'm not going to show my textbooks. Ernest Nagel and James R. Newman. Gödel's Theorem, or Gödel's Proof. It's a real important part of the foundations of math. Basically, the concept is math is an axiomic system. You have to make certain fundamental statements that aren't provable to set the whole thing rolling, to give you a framework, and then you form your proofs off of that. And basically, Gödel showed rigorously that when you change one or more of the axioms, you shift all the set of truisms that are not provable. So you'll have certain truisms in math. I don't know if the P versus NP problem is like that, or Fermat's last theorem, but there's certain identities and truisms in math that we just can't prove, and it's not purported to be because of inadequacies. It's more because you can't prove everything with the set of axioms you have, but that all shifts. Basically, your whole mathematical system shifts as you change one axiom, and so that's what this theorem's about. Sort of, it's an examination of the fundamentals of math and what it means to have a mathematical system. If you're not interested in math, not a good book for you. I have not read this yet, but I'm dying to read it sometime this year, hopefully. Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. I love the American Gods. I love Sandman and other stories he's written. Neil Gaiman's a really fun writer. And, I'm looking forward to reading his take on Norse mythology. And I've read quite a bit of it back when I was younger, and I want to read a fun, popular read of it. Here's a cool book. It's called Everything Happens in Vermont. I think this is some sort of done over title, done over cover. Anything can happen in Vermont. The Vermont's covered over with a price tag. It's from Thrift Books. I got it dirt cheap. I got this. I heard it on one of the shows. Maybe it was Steve Donahue or somebody else, Michael K. Vaughan. Somebody had this book, and probably Steve Donahue because I know he goes up to Vermont a lot. I lived in Vermont, so I've seen a lot of this stuff to talk about the gardening and the berries and the whole bit. But it's just nice to read about now that I'm not living there anymore. I'm down in New York, which is, even though it's a border state to Vermont, it's like downstate New York is like a different world than New England. It's or upper New England. It's a different culture down here. We're more like New York City. Up there, it's quite different. There's no major city around. People are very rural. The population's actually decreased over the 1900s into the 2000s. And so I went to UVM up there, University of Vermont. So I'm pretty familiar with Vermont, although unfortunately, I was at UVM for those years as a grad student and a postdoc and working there afterwards. I didn't go much out of the greater Burlington area. So I did occasionally go, I went to the Northeast Kingdom like twice. Didn't get out as much as I wanted to because I was always busy academically. Somebody gave me this book here a year or two ago. It's the Long Island Sound, Field Guide to the Long Island Sound. It's not a Peterson book. It's just put out by Patrick J. Lynch. I do not know who that person is, and I honestly don't read books like this. I just flip to certain topics in here. They have the birds, of course, and I don't know who the art is. I really should have looked at that beforehand, but I just want to do a quick review. But they also have plants, and insects and all sorts of cool things you might see. Now, obviously, most of my viewers will probably, when I have viewers, probably will not live on Long Island, but wherever you live, if you can find a book like that, a field guide to the animals, plants, this has geologic formations and things like that. I think it's really cool. It gives you, if you like nature, it gives you an appreciation for your environment. I know a lot about birds, but I don't know. I'm really weak on plants, so I should take that down to the beach when I go down there walking. Omni. I have numerous of these. You'll be seeing them if I keep going with this run of videos here. This is the best of Omni science fiction. It's one of many books in that collection. Really used to love Omni when I was a teenager and a child. I used to steal them out of any time I'd go to a doctor's office or a dentist when they had Omni in the late 70s, early 80s. I would snatch one up and take it home. It had really cool sci-fi by people like G.R.R. Martin, other writers that I really liked at that time period, and it also had some good science fact. It was kind of stretching it. It would be cybernetics or artificial intelligence before that was even thought feasible, nanotech, things like that. Um, so it was always a cool magazine, and it's a selection of their better stories. I have not read this. I recently got it. I forgot what show I heard about this on. Ordinary Men. It's a story about how who's it by here? It's Christopher Browning. I'm not familiar with the author. It's a book about how they've recruited ordinary men to become SS and Nazis, I assume, something like that. I heard about it and it sounded really interesting. So it's how they brainwashed people and kind of relevant to today if you think about America, how people are being brainwashed. Here's another book I just got a couple weeks ago. I have not read it. I keep hearing about Soren Kierkegaard in different talks I hear on philosophy. And so I got this tome here by him. I have to read it, Concluding Unscientific Postscript to Philosophical Fragments. Why did I buy this? I was feeling like I wanted to be a smart guy when I bought this. It's like anytime I read Nietzsche. But I'll read it. And I know I'm running out of time here. My phone's flashing. I wish you all well, and I'll make another video in the next day or two whenever I feel like it. So, Wild Man Z out, and have a good night. And up here in the Northeast, we're going to have snow tomorrow, so hopefully everybody will be warm inside and safe. Thank you. Take care.